Can fiber reinforced tape break your slackline webbing? Check it out on this Slack Snap episode of How Not to Highline. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks and welcome to Slack Snap. This is where we break stuff with my 222 kilonewton brake test machine and find out what things break in real life, since most of us do not highline in a lab. Today we're going to brake test something pretty random, tape. I think we all know that if it gets either hot enough out or windy enough that our slackline tape breaks. But we saw on Balanced Community that Jerry was using fiber reinforced tape, so I was curious how strong that stuff was. I was a bit curious because you can't rip it, you can't tear it, it's hard to cut. If you have enough wraps around your webbing, if it would be stronger than your webbing and potentially cut it. So we tested 2, 4, 8, and 16 layers of fiber reinforced tape. And just for fun, even though we know it's kind of weak and it ended up being anticlimactic, we tested climbing tape and duct tape. So 2 layers of fiber tape did not give much of a fight at 200 pounds of force or 0.88 kilonewtons. My dynamometer reads in pounds, and since these forces are so low, it's kind of silly to use kilonewtons, but we'll use both in this video. Then we did 4 layers, and it gave us a little bit more of a fight at 350 pounds of force or 1.5 kilonewtons. And then we did 8 layers, and it got much stronger at 750 pounds or 3.3 kilonewtons. Then we wrapped the fiber reinforced tape 16 times, and we got 1,150 pounds of force or 5.1 kilonewtons. That's how much force we put on the anchor when we whip off of a highline. So then we tested duct tape because that was always my go-to when I wanted my tape stronger. But when we tested 4 layers, it only broke at 200 pounds of force or a little under 1 kilonewton. So then we doubled it and did 8 layers of duct tape, and it also broke at just under 1 kilonewton. Then we doubled that, and with 16 layers, we did get more strength at 450 pounds of force, or 2 kilonewtons. It basically melted into one thick, gooey mess. So then we did climbing tape, which has been a really common tape to use to tape highlines together. We skipped 4 layers of climbing tape because I didn't even feel like it was worth it. We jumped straight to 8 layers, and it broke at 200 pounds of force, or just under 1 kilonewton. Then we did 16 layers, and it also turned into a glob of glue, and it broke at 400 pounds of force, or 1.7 kilonewtons. So that was an interesting test. Fiberglass tape is never going to break your webbing, but it is interesting to see how strong it is. If you are going to tape a long highline and the wind were to break it, this is wind by the way, it could really mess up your rig, because when the 2 pieces are oscillating different from each other, it can put a lot of force on your anchor, and it might not be safe to go out on your line. It's also a real pain to retape really big highlines. It is interesting that even though you add more layers of climbing or duct tape, that it really doesn't increase the strength much. We'd have to put on a ridiculous amount, an unreasonable amount, of layers in order to make it worth anything. So I use fiber tape now to tape all my highlines, so much so that I don't have any left with me right now. So this is gaffer tape, and gaffer tape is kind of like duct tape. It can be torn, whereas fiber tape cannot. So you're going to want to tape your lines when you're at home and not when you're out in the field. You really don't want to be carrying knives out on your highline to cut your tape. But anyways, if you are taping your line at home, I have a whole video on taping highlines, but you put a little extra past your webbing. So when you go over it, you have a non-sticky side. So when you have your second piece in there, it can slide back and forth. Now the idea here is with fiber tape, something I recommend is on the very end, I just tape the end to itself so it's not sticky. And it kind of leaves a little flap there. Nothing that affects your highlining. But if you were to ever need to take it off, like you're tightening your web lock or something and you just need one layer off, or you're having an issue, It can be a real pain to take fiber tape off since you cannot tear it. And pulling on your Highline, your two webbings apart from each other, it still doesn't tear it. So this is a nice option when you can just untape it quickly. So check out our video on how to tape Highlines. And Jerry has several videos on tape and taping Highlines. You can check that out. He shows you an efficient way of doing it. And because taping Highlines at home can be a real bitch, therefore, you shouldn't Highline. Thanks for watching, but don't be an idiot and think that because you know how to tape a Highline that you should go rig the first one you do by yourself. Please go with someone who knows what they're doing the first time you go out. If you need a slackline friend, we made a list for you of all the slackline groups on Facebook in the world. So go check that out on Slackademics and make some friends. And please consider donating $1 Stoke dollar per weekly episode that we do here on How Not to Highline. It helps support the overall effort of this channel, Slackademics, and the Church of Slacklife. By donating $1 per episode, you're not supporting us unless we're creating content. We're not trying to make money at our community projects. We would just like it to be financially sustainable. If you want a cool shirt like this, we have them on the churchofslacklife.com. Go leave your Slacklife testimony on there. Check out our Book of Slack, our Bolting Bibles on there. The shirts are on there. Tons of stuff. We have a newsletter once a month that we can email you if you give us your email. We hate spam as much as you do, so we're pretty careful about not doing that. Until you get a chance to tape some Highlines, check out our other episodes and don't forget to subscribe, like, or follow wherever you are watching these episodes.